Hello and welcome to this week's MMA Survivor podcast. I am Michael Hoad, and as always am joined by Mitchell Machtinger and Nick Ashbourne, and this was the first time we've actually viewed the episode together, so it should be a good one. Also, Nick has lost his first player in a weird way. We'll get into that a little later on, but Nick, how does it feel to be down a man finally?
You know what? It was good to get everyone on even playing field. I don't like to feel like I'm above people by too much. I want there to still be some excitement in the game, and I think that's what we're going to see going forward.
Fair enough. There was a trade that went down, obviously. We'll get to that later on, but let's start with the episode recap. We get back from Tribal Council with Kelly just being voted out, and Dale has his little confessional and says that he is so upset that these complete strangers have slaughtered his daughter, and he says it's the hardest thing he's ever seen her go through. What do you think of that statement?
When I heard that for the first time, my first thought was like, wow, he must have been an absentee dad. Like, we didn't get to see anything more difficult than her getting voted off her reality show. Just ludicrously overdramatic. Pretty entertaining, but it's funny because we've been told about Dale being sort of this like hardworking, blue-collar farmer type guy, and you wouldn't think that it would get to him this much, but it really did, apparently.
Sticking with Dale, in the next morning, he knows he's on the out, so he knows he has to make a drastic move. So he pulls John aside, because I guess John is sort of the guy calling the shots now, and shows him that fake idol thing that he found on the very first day on the water well. And John just stares at it, like completely bewildered, seems concerned about it, and then he 100% bought into it. What did you think of Dale's move, Mitch?
I like the move. I mean, Dale knew his back was against the wall, and this was his one play, I guess, he had left. So he may as well... I mean, he had to show people that he had the idol, because obviously if he didn't tell anyone, he would have been gone anyways.
Nick, you like it?
Yeah, like Mitch said, there's really not a lot left for Dale. He literally has no alliance. He wasn't very good at making alliances coming in. He said that his social game was the weakness coming into the Survivor, and I think that was shown to be true throughout. So he's a pretty smart strategic player, and like Mitch said, this was kind of the one strategic play that he had left.
I thought it was great. I thought he was actually going to pull it off, too, as the episode went on. But last week we saw the tease that the Blue Tribe needs more help from Jeff. Jeff walks up with the bag of rice and says, this is going to be a severe penalty. You're the tribe that's needed the most help in Survivor history. So what the deal is for this fresh bag of rice, they have to give up their tarp, their hatchet, their hammer, all the comfort items they've won. Essentially, they're just starting fresh, as if they had just arrived on day one. I didn't even think this was really severe enough. I thought they would have to go to Tribal Council. Mitch, what did you think of this penalty?
Default thought was going to Tribal Council, and first thought about this when Jeff was like, oh, I've never had to give food to another tribe. And then you mentioned Australia. Here's my weekly Survivor history tidbit. In Australia, they built their camp really close to this river or something, and then one day they came back from a challenge and there was this flash flood and it washed away the entire camp, so they lost everything. And an idea I thought of, it wouldn't really have been a Tribal Council so screw anyone over in that sense, but have like everybody draw rocks, and then whoever has like the one rock gets sent over to the other tribe.
Ooh, that
would have been a good twist.
Wow. We get to the Exile Duel that's back this week. Just quick reaction to Kelly being gone. Julie and Natalie were especially shocked by that, but it didn't seem to have the effect that I thought it would. I thought Jeremy might react a bit more to it. The duel itself, the reward is for a Survivor barbecue, which is hilarious considering that Blue just had to trade for food, and Jeremy was especially pissed off about it. He thought like the next day, they're going to have a reward, win the food back.
But the rice is long-term, and the meal is it was like raw meat. You can't put that anywhere. They have to eat it right away, right? So it was short-term versus long-term, and I think they still made the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, they'd have to continuously win rewards to feed themselves. I think having the rice is a way more secure source of food.
To be fair, they would have continually won because the other tribe is so bad. And also, Jeremy He was being a little bit irrational, but he also knew that they were about to hit the merge, and once they hit the merge, they'd be able to share food with the other tribes, so things might have been a little bit better. But yeah, I think he was a bit over the top on that one.
For the challenge itself, two competitors ended up being Reed versus Baylor. They didn't have to do the loved ones thing anymore. So Reed versus Baylor, what appears to be a huge mismatch. They're blindfolded. They have to work their way through this little obstacle course, grab 3 bags of puzzle pieces. Some of them are fake pieces that look exactly like the normal ones, and then assemble this puzzle. Reed wins. I was a little concerned because he had a fake piece in his puzzle, and he just so happened to pick the one that was fake to replace. So I don't know. Conspiracy is on. So Reed wins it, and then for the exile, from his tribe, he picks Julie to go. And right as he does that, Natalie volunteers to do it, and Reed then accepts that. So did you like Natalie's volunteering?
I think it's a classic. A good rule of thumb is don't draw attention to yourself unless you have to in Survivor. I think this was a case Natalie's shown before, sort of her outspoken rant against Rocker and whatnot. I don't think she's cognizant of that. That she's not very good at keeping a low profile. This was sort of a high risk, low reward move for me because I guess she gets an immunity idol clue, but Keith has that idol anyway for her tribe, so I don't think she gained much by it, and she just made herself stand out a little more.
I guess she could just try to really solidify that alliance with Missy and Baylor come the merge. They could get them back with Natalie and Jeremy for a very tight 4, but I don't know. I wasn't a big fan either. Back at Orange, we see Keith trying to fish with this little stick and line. He's not having any luck. And while that's going on, it's John, Missy, and Jacqueline talking, because of course Keith is not included in the discussions. And John reveals that Dale has the idol and says that they might have to turn on Keith now. But over at Exile, yeah, we see that Natalie did it so that Missy and Baylor would be with her. Baylor gets the idol clue, shares it with Natalie. At Blue, Jeremy is really starting to get pissed off with Josh and Reed. He says that if he and Val were in the situation, you wouldn't even know they're a couple. They'd be so apart. But Josh and Reed are walking around like they own the place. Do you like that they're getting so close and making it so obvious?
I mean, it's like obviously they're a couple. Like everybody knows that. But I can see how it rubs people the wrong way. I mean, especially for, I guess, people who don't have their loved one even in the game anymore. But I mean, you don't want to make it that, I guess, consciously obvious that you guys are together as a pair.
I like Josh way better when he didn't have Reed with him. I feel like he's letting his game slip a little bit. We don't really know because he's been winning, and at Orange he was losing, so we saw more of him.
Yeah, I think that Josh works better with it. I mean, we know in this game people tend to be stronger without their partners. I think that also Jeremy is he's a typical alpha dog, and his presence commanded that tribe until Josh showed up. So I think that he feels just on a very basic level that his control is slipping, and I think that makes him uncomfortable and makes him kind of lash out a bit.
We see the reward consumption, and Alec has probably the line of the episode. He's just mowing down on his meat kebab, and he says, "I am a meat collector. I eat a lot of meat. My skirt was blown up." Alec is just loving life with this reward. And of course, now that Blue has no tarp, it starts raining, and raining hard. So Julie is saying she's reaching her breaking point. She can't deal with the cold. And this brings us to our mid-episode trade. We paused it right as the commercial happened, and the trade was made, Julie for Dale straight up. So Dale has now been on all 3 of our teams. Looking back, are you happy with your trade?
I mean, it's easy to say that Mitch won this trade because of the way the episode played out, but I still think Julie's a threat to quit. I'm in the lead right now, so I think that Dale was a much safer play for me. I knew there's a pretty good chance they would go tonight, and if he didn't, he'd have some legs after the merge. But I thought I'll take the -5 points or whatever it is with Dale and absolutely assure myself that I'm not going to get hit with that -30, which would really bring everyone back in line with me.
Julie was a player that I liked ever since Nick drafted her, and I was sort of worried, but as soon as we came back from commercial and everything was okay, I think everything's good. I mean, I was really the one thing about Dale that I was nervous about was that if he actually stayed through this vote, I was really nervous because I felt like he could go pretty far. But I'm also really confident that John is going to be the quitter. So in that sense, I'm not worried about Julie. And I also had nothing to lose. I was in last place. I mean, Julie got me 7 points for her immunity challenge win. So, yeah, I mean, I don't regret the trade.
On to that immunity challenge you just mentioned. You had to climb up a wall, push these big cubes across the sand, climb up the cube, grab a puzzle bag, tetherball style, and then assemble a flag puzzle at the end. So surprisingly, through the more physical part of the challenge, the wall climbing and the pushing of cubes, Orange was in the lead because Jeremy got log jammed with one of his bag swinging attempts. I thought for sure they were going to win this one. They had like 3 or 4 of their flag pieces in, and then John says, "Who's Big John now?" And right after he says that, Orange just falls apart. Blue comes back. It was Reed and Josh doing their puzzle, and they took it. Were you surprised at the collapse from Orange?
I think that they made a pretty serious tactical error by putting John in charge of the puzzles. We earlier on when we all had John pretty high up on our draft boards. We hypothesized that this was a big guy who would be athletic but was also probably pretty smart, and that just hasn't been true. He's not a very intelligent player. His reaction to Dale's fake idol was amazing.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh, man. So once John was doing the puzzle, I knew anything was possible in terms of this team losing. Though I do think he deserves credit for his ability to do those tetherball swings on the puzzle bags. He was getting those out in like 5 seconds, and it took Jeremy so long to do it.
He was definitely king of the playground on the tetherball court when he was a kid, because that was a clinic. So back now that Orange has lost this challenge, Dale is really feeling on the outs. So he goes to John again and says, "Look, if I don't get voted out tonight, if I make the merge, I'm going to give you my idol." And John is intrigued by this possibility. They present an alternative target of Missy, which came out of nowhere for me. I thought instantly they'd just say, "Okay, we'll get Keith out," but they started targeting Missy. But then John goes and tells Missy, Baylor, and Jacqueline about the proposal, and they decide, hey, let's split the vote. Some of us will vote Keith, some of us will vote Dale. We'll see what happens. So off to Tribal Council. We'll point out that it is another stormy night in where are they this season? Do we know?
San Juan del Sur.
San Juan del Sur. I
right.
don't know where that is.
I'm going to guess somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Okay, yep. It's another stormy night in Southeast Asia.
I don't think so. The name like San Juan del Sur. That's clearly Spanish.
We'll figure that out. And the results, it ends up Dale does go home. And with that, the first couple has officially been eliminated in back-to-back weeks, Kelly and then her father, Dale. So next episode...
San Juan del Sur is Nicaragua.
Oh, Nicaragua.
Yeah,
right. I did know that.
In Southeast Asia.
We mentioned that in the first episode. So, yeah, that is just a mind slip from me there. Okay, so we see that the merge is indeed happening next episode, and it appears that the Josh-Jeremy showdown is looming, and I can't wait. Two of Nick's two biggest players are going to go at it.
Should we discuss that dynamic now or in predictions later?
I think that'll come up in predictions.
It'll come up in predictions. Let's move on to the point recap.
So point recap was pretty big this week. I think I made some decent ground. Now I had all 4 blue, but it doesn't matter anymore because of the merge. So Nick's at 197. He got Dale and was -3 on Dale. Michael, you have 135. And I have 114. I got 7 points out of Julie and didn't get that -3. So, again, Reed is still on top with 55. Natalie and Jeremy each have 52. And other than that, everybody else is in the Julie had 46, but now she had 7 on for me, so whatever. Yeah, but everyone else is in the 30s, and now this is every week matters a lot because tribe challenges won't add up for your team. So you need an individual to go really far.
Yes, and I'm really curious. Like, Blue would have swept the challenge department had Drew not thrown that one.
Had this gone on for one more week, I think, then I might have passed you next week with tribal challenges.
With all your blues?
Because I would have had 4 blue.
Most likely. I mean...
Yeah, Orange is not going to win.
Orange is trashed. Their best player was John, and he's just pure physical stuff. No mental capacity there. So, MVP... it's tough for Mitch, so we'll go to Nick first on the MVP.
Yeah, and I'm going to steal Mitch's idea. We were discussing it beforehand. I'm going to go way off the board with Dale, the guy who's voted off, just because he was in such a terrible position coming in that I was almost sure that he was going to get voted off. And he pulled a great move by pulling out the fake idol and showing John to begin with. And then he pulled a great follow-up move with that deal that he brokered with John where, let me get through and I'll give you the idol. Which I think John came pretty close to buying in on. So I think that Dale almost pulled an absolute master stroke. No one else was doing anything that strategic in this episode, so I think he deserves all credit.
If Dale could have pulled that off, it would have been unbelievable. He would have gone super far because I don't think he's going to be a threat to win challenges. He's proven to be good at throwing things, but I don't know how many of those challenges will be left. And
he's no Reynolds, though.
He's no Reynolds. I would have loved to have seen what happened with if John did get the idol and just showed it to Jacqueline, and then I would have loved to see Jacqueline's reaction to it. That is not an idol.
Yeah. But how many of them actually know what an idol looks like? None of them do.
I don't know. That looks like a keychain or something.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an idol.
It does. I don't know.
Oh, Mitch would have bought. Would you have bought that it's an idol?
I wouldn't have discredited it so quickly. The whole fishy thing for me was that how willing Dale was to offer it, just give it to John after. That would have raised some red flags for me, more so than is this actually an idol?
He also said that he found it in the water though. He told John that they don't hide them there. So I don't know.
If I were him, I would have told John I was in trouble early in the early going, so I just went and looked for one by myself.
True.
So that's a credible story because it's true. He was in trouble a couple times.
I remember just earlier Survivor when they first introduced the idols, they wouldn't hide it in some hole in some tree 10 feet up in the air. It would be what's this little thing hiding behind your tribe flag? It's right in front of you. So I mean, in that sense, it was a bit of a throwback, if I may say.
Survivor history from Mitchell Machtinger. Who's your MVP, Mitch?
Since Nick said Dale and I also said Dale, I'm gonna switch it up and go with Natalie because of her move to, I guess, show her loyalty to Missy and therefore Baylor. And I mean, they know that the merge is coming up, so just to get the numbers, I guess, confirmed going into the merge is a good thing.
While we're still on that move, it would have been interesting because Julie was supposed to go. What would have happened to Julie on Exile during that rainstorm?
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Also, during that rainstorm, from what we've seen in Exile, I don't think there's a shelter on Exile. Yeah, I would like to see Baylor and Natalie stuck on Exile during the rainstorm.
Yeah, me too. I just find there hasn't been enough Exile footage. They show them get there, they show them read the clue, and then that's
from Keith and Josh, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, were they cooking the crabs or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only time we've seen sort of something happen on Exile.
My MVP is an old man as well, not Dale. I'm gonna go with Keith here.
Wow,
it's a sleeper pick.
Sleeper because he slept. He didn't do anything.
No, but it's okay. We know the merge has happened. He has an idol. He's been reunited with his pretty good son at challenges. And now he's not a threat because he's an old dude. He's not going to do anything physically.
How can he be MVP of an episode, though, when he didn't do anything in the episode?
No, it's just the way he's positioned going forward now.
I could tell you, Reed's in a great spot going forward, too.
No, but he has the idol. Don't sleep on the idol.
It's episode MVP, not, who has good projections going forward.
Even though he has a good chance of going home with the idol in his pocket. Or
I think that's pretty likely.
He could give it to Wes, though. Thinking about that, because Wes would be targeted before Keith. We'll deal with that when we come
Maybe
to
he'll hide it from Wes. The ultimate father-son rivalry.
it. Payback for Wes losing the Flint on that day 0, whatever that was. Okay, LVP, I'm going to go with Julie. In this episode, I'll be more specific. For this episode, Julie has just shown that she's a ticking time bomb to be the quitter. It's really funny, Nick, you just touched on it a couple seconds ago, that she was going to be sent to exile, and Reed's justification was that she could show John Rocker how tough she was, and then that happened. So that was just pretty ironic. Again, I'm also wondering what would have happened to her if she ended up on exile. Who's your LVP, Mitch?
It was also Julie, despite taking on my team. I think even the talk about quitting puts an easy reason for you to be voted out. So I think had Blue lost, I mean, she probably would have been voted out anyways, but I think just that notion of being like, oh, she doesn't really want to be here. I mean, everybody has their bad days, but it's about not letting people know that you're having a bad day.
And that's what Jeremy was saying to her. Just like, I know this is tough, but you can't let them see you like this. Because that does, in a weird way, put a target on her back, because it's like, we can just sweep this person aside, and there won't be any problem.
Nick, LVP for you.
My LVP is going to be John this time. He bought Dale's story like hook, line, and sinker, no problem. And then he was on the brink of just shattering his alliance with Missing Baylor, which is probably his best link back to Jeremy and those women when the merge comes. Just because he totally got hoodwinked by Dale, and also he was just awful in the puzzle aspect of the challenge.
And then showboated and collapsed. So
Yeah.
that's a solid LVP pick. Challenge Beast this week. Let's start with Mitch.
So my challenge beast is my boy Reed. I think the hardest part about the Exile challenge was the fake pieces, and just the fact that they actually fit into the puzzle. Because if they were fake pieces but they didn't actually fit, it would have been easy to just get rid of them and go from there. But, I mean, it takes a lot of memorization, just all the little details of the pieces that were in the puzzle. So Reed came through in the clutch.
I'm also going with Reed, although I don't know how legit that fake piece discovery was. Still have a little bit of an issue with that. 1 in 7 chance of getting it right, and he somehow did. But then he also was a key cog in Blue's comeback. While Orange was collapsing, he was in on the puzzle leg of the competition, and that's what it came down to, as it usually does. So Reed's my beast for this week.
Yeah, I'd just for variety give it to both Reed and Josh, because they didn't have a single misplace on the puzzle. They just went right through it, no problem. And as you said, that was the difference.
Yeah. Social blunder. We'll lead off with Nick here.
I just got to go with who's Big John now. It doesn't make any sense, because it's kind of him chirping Julie, who is his former tribe mate and the weakest player on the other tribe. And it just, like, I don't understand what an attack on Julie does. Like, no one else likes John Rocker.
Was it an attack on Julie, though, or like an attack on, like, Jeff? Like, Probst, to be like, oh, like, I'm, like, Big John.
I did not take it that way.
That's the first thing I thought. I didn't think it was, like, an attack on Julie.
I assumed that it was I don't know. I haven't seen people just yell at Jeff much, but...
Was Jeff, like, saying something about him? Like,
I don't know, but, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he had called Rocker, like, Big John before.
Oh, he has, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so there you go. I think that's what it was.
my social blunder was Josh for 2 reasons. One, he's been very adamant about the former Blue Tribe's food intake. He's been chirping them a lot. Still doesn't understand how they ate so much. And also, I just don't like how overt he is with his boyfriend Reed. I know it's obvious they're a couple, but I think they should distance themselves a little bit. I think it's just painting a bigger target on both of them.
My social blunder, I mean, it came through more clearly this episode, but just the whole dynamic between Missy and Baylor and John and Jacqueline, but more specifically John and Jacqueline. I think just the 4 of them, I don't know. I feel like they should have a solid, like, long-term plan, and I don't understand sort of what their game plan is going to be going forward.
Yeah, I don't really like any of those four. 3 of them are on my team, and my favorite of the 4 is probably Jacqueline. I don't know. At this point in the game, I have no faith in any of my team members. Maybe Alec, but I don't know, he's a meat collector, so if there's another reward, he might start like hoarding the meat or something and just do something ridiculous.
Yeah, you know what they say, never trust a meat collector.
Never trust a meat collector. Okay, predictions. We're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to discuss who we think is going to go home, but first, we're wagering 1 single point for the point system. We're going to predict the color of the tribe. Mitch, it was your idea, so we'll let you have the first crack at it.
I don't know. I tried to figure out, like, it's like, what do blue and... Apparently it's orange. I think it's yellow, whatever. I said red. I'm going to go with red. No reason behind it.
All right.
It's hard to be too strategic with this. I'm going to go with a dark imperial purple because I think it's kind of similar to blue and also the complementary color to orange.
Wow.
Purple was my backup. I'm just thinking I wanted more of a...
Deep.
I wanted more of a vibrant color. I feel like if they did like something like brown or purple, it's just like... It's too dark.
I can't debate any of those points. It's like there's no legitimate things here.
I didn't put nearly as much thought into this, I don't think. Nick planned out this complementary color scheme. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I just picked one and said dark green. No justification, just rolling with it, hoping it gets me 1 point closer to Nick. So there's only one person that we can predict now because they're merged. So who do you guys think is going to go home?
See, I think it's going to be Jeremy, Natalie, Julie... No. I'm trying to like figure out the sides because we're obviously going to go Josh versus Jeremy, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the singles, and then the whole thing is Missy, Baylor, and John and Jacqueline are really sort of the deciding
up in the air,
deciding votes. So I think for whatever reason, however the numbers play out, Jeremy's side is going to win, and I think that Alec is actually going to be the fall guy. The sort
like
of
the swing?
Somehow he's going to be like collateral damage on the other side, and just like it's not going to be Josh, not going to be Reed, but like Alec's going to be like the number on the other side to go.
Oh, I see. So you think they'll target someone from Josh's side, but not Josh and Reed?
Something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a bold, I guess, bold prediction.
No, yeah, it's good. I mean, I also have more faith in Jeremy than I do in Josh. I was really big on Josh when he was on Orange. He's fallen off a bit for me since he's been reunited with his boyfriend. So I just think Jeremy's going to pull something off. We saw him in the episode say, I just need to make the merge so that I can work some magic. So I'm a huge fan of Jeremy. Nick and I were saying, he's very displeased about the food situation and trading everything, but he never voices that publicly. It's always in the confessional, so he can vent there and then keep his game cool on the surface. So I just think he'll come out on top, and I think Josh will go home. There's not room for Josh and Jeremy on one tribe.
Should we predict who wins immunity?
No, you can't. Yeah, I also have, unfortunately, Josh. I have Josh going home. I think that Jeremy would be smart to take out Josh first, because then he'd have a better chance of bringing people from Josh's tribe into the fold. Like, if Josh is gone, in theory, Jeremy could take Reed back if he thought that Reed would be useful going forward.
But Reed wouldn't work with Jeremy if he voted out Josh.
Maybe true, but people will work with who they need to survive.
Like Dale just tried to work with John and Jacqueline.
Yeah, and I think, and we know Jeremy's going after Alec. I think I kind of did a brief run of the numbers in my head. I think that Jeremy ends up with the 7 that he needs, and that's even counting Alec cautiously to be on Josh's side. I think there's a chance that Alec rolls with Jeremy. We saw him sitting next to Jeremy today and like picking his brain about stuff, and I think there actually is a bit of a relationship developing there.
For immunity, should we predict who wins immunity? I think it's going to be like one of the girls. I think it's going to be Baylor. I don't know why. Don't know any reason.
There's usually a challenge where they have to just like hang on to a post for a prolonged period of time, and I think Baylor's going to win that. I think that's the only thing she could win because she's
so
light.
mentally weak, though. Like when there's the slightest bit of pain, she folds so easily.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go with Alec. I think he's like not necessarily the buffest, strongest guy, but like a really limber athlete, and also
Well-rounded.
Mitch picked him to go, so that's always fun.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to next episode. We will definitely be back to discuss all the fallout from the merge and ensuing tribal council. But for now, with Nick Ashbourne and Mitchell Machtinger, I am Michael Hoad, and we will be back next week.